The white room had no windows, just four walls, two chairs, and a table between them. The air smelled like cleaning chemicals and fear. Vexathera sat in the metal chair, his 6 arms folded against his chest. His gray skin was covered in old battle scars. Some were from bullets, others were from explosions. All of them were from fighting humans. Captain Kim Dae-ho sat across from him. The human was small compared to Vexathera. Most humans were small, but Kim's eyes were sharp and focused. He held a tablet in his hands and waited. "You know why we are here," Kim said. His voice was calm. "You asked to tell your story, the whole story." Vexathera's large yellow eyes looked around the room. Behind the mirror on the wall, he knew Dr. Park Soo-jin was watching. The human female was a mind doctor. She studied how different alien races think. Vexathera had met her before. She always asked hard questions. "Yes," Vexathera said. His voice was deep and rough. "I need to tell someone. The memories. They do not go away." Kim touched his tablet. A red light showed it was recording. "Start whenever you are ready." Vexathera closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were filled with old pain. "Before the war, we were the strongest fighters in the galaxy. The Kethamori had never lost a battle. Never. For 3,000 years we conquered every world we wanted. Every species feared us." He lifted one of his hands. The fingers ended in sharp claws that could cut through metal. "We are bigger than humans, stronger, faster. We have better weapons and ships. When we heard about Earth, we laughed." "What did you think about humans then?" Kim asked. "Nothing," Vexathera said. "We thought you were just another weak species. You had only been in space for a few hundred years. We had been traveling between stars for thousands. Your ships were slow. Your weapons were basic. You lived on only a few worlds." He paused and looked at his hands. The claws were shaking slightly. "Our leaders said it would take 1 month to defeat all humans. Maybe less. We had fought species much stronger than you. They all surrendered or died quickly. Why would humans be different?" Kim made notes on his tablet. "Tell me about the first attack." "We sent our fastest ships to your outer colonies, places far from Earth. We thought you would abandon them to save your homeworld. That is what smart species do. They give up the small places to protect the big ones." Vexathera's voice became quieter. "You did not abandon them. You fought for every single world, every space station, every mining ship. Even when you had no chance to win, you kept fighting. That surprised you?" "It confused us. We captured some human prisoners from the first battles. We asked them why they did not surrender. They said something we did not understand then." "What did they say?" "They said every day we spent fighting them was one more day their families had to get ready, one more day to build weapons, one more day to send messages to warn other colonies." Vexathera shook his head. "We thought they were just being brave. We did not know they were being smart." Kim leaned forward. "When did you realize humans were different?" "During the 3rd month of the war. We had taken 12 human colonies, but each one fought longer than the last. Each battle cost us more ships and soldiers. Our commanders started asking questions." Vexathera stood up and walked to the mirror. He stared at his reflection. "I was a war leader then. I commanded a fleet of 50 ships. I had won battles against the Zorith Empire and the Crystal Confederation. I was proud." He turned back to Kim. "My fleet was sent to attack a human supply base called Titan Station. It was just a mining operation on a moon. Maybe 400 humans lived there. We had 15,000 soldiers. You thought it would be easy. We thought it would be over in 1 day. We sent a message to the human commander telling him to surrender. We showed him how many ships we had, how many soldiers. We told him we would let his people live if they gave up." "What happened?" Vexathera sat down again. His hands were shaking more now. "The human commander was named Lee Min-ho. He was not a big man, not young, maybe 50 years old. He looked at our message and laughed." "He laughed?" "Yes. Then he sent us a message back. He said his people would not surrender. He said if we wanted Titan Station, we would have to take it from their dead bodies. We thought he was just talking tough. Kim stopped writing. But he wasn't. No, he was making a promise. And humans always keep their promises. Vexithara's voice became very quiet. We attacked the next morning. We thought we would be done by lunch. We were still fighting 3 months later. 3 months? Lee Min-ho turned that small mining base into something from our worst nightmares. Every corridor was a trap. Every room was a fortress. The humans used mining equipment as weapons. They made bombs from fertilizer. They turned their own water system into poison gas. Vexithara put his head in his hands. My soldiers started having bad dreams. They would see humans in shadows that were not there. They jumped at small noises. Some refused to go into the station anymore. The humans were fighting a psychological war. We did not understand then. We only knew that our best warriors were becoming afraid. Afraid of creatures half their size who should have been easy to defeat. Kim looked up from his tablet. This was when you started to realize humans were dangerous. This was when we started to realize humans were not like other species. Other races fight to win. Humans fight to make sure you lose, even if they have to die to do it. Vexithara stared at the table. That was just the beginning. The real horror was still coming. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of air moving through vents. Kim waited. He knew there was more to the story. Much more. You want to hear about Titan Station? Vexithara asked. Yes, Kim said. Tell me everything. Vexithara closed his eyes again. When he opened them, they looked very old and very tired. Then I will tell you about the first time we learned to be afraid of humans, and why that fear never goes away. Vexithara stared at the white wall for a long time before he spoke again. Captain Kim waited. He had learned that pushing the alien warrior only made him close up like a shell. Titan Base was built into the side of a mountain. Vexithara finally said, the humans had been mining there for 20 years. They knew every tunnel and cave. We knew nothing. His 6 arms moved restlessly. We surrounded the base with our ships. No one could get in or out. We had enough soldiers to fill a small city. The humans had maybe 400 people. Most of them were miners, not soldiers. But you said the battle lasted 3 months. Yes, because Colonel Lee Min-ho was not like other military leaders we had fought. Other commanders try to save their people. They look for ways to win with the fewest deaths. Lee Min-ho did not think like that. Vexithara's voice became darker. He thought like someone who knew he was going to die. And when humans know they are going to die, they become something else. Something we were not ready for. Kim made notes. Behind the mirror, he knew Dr. Park was recording everything. This was why they were here, to understand how humans looked through alien eyes. Tell me about the first attack, Kim said. We sent 2,000 soldiers to the main entrance. Standard formation. Heavy weapons in front, regular troops behind. We expected the humans to try to hold the entrance for maybe an hour, then they would fall back deeper into the base. Vexithara's claws scratched marks in the metal table. The entrance was a large tunnel that went straight into the mountain, perfect for an attack, or so we thought. What happened? We got halfway, through the tunnel when the explosion started, but not from weapons. The humans had rigged the ceiling to fall down. Tons of rock crushed the front line of our attack. The tunnel was blocked, so you found another way in? We tried. There were 6 other entrances to the base. Mining shafts, air vents, cargo tunnels. We sent soldiers to all of them. Vexithara shook his head. Every single one was trapped. Not with simple explosives, with clever things. He held up one scarred arm. This burn is from a tunnel that was filled with burning mining fuel. We opened the door and flames shot out like a dragon's breath. 12 of my soldiers died in seconds. The humans had prepared. They had 3 days to prepare while we were talking about surrender. Lee Min-ho used every hour. He turned that mining base into a maze of death. But that was not the worst part. Vexithara stood up and walked to the corner of the room. The worst part was what they did to our minds. What do you mean? The humans did not just fight us with weapons. They fought us with fear. They would play sounds through the base communication system. Sometimes it was human music. Sometimes it was recordings of our own soldiers screaming. His yellow eyes looked distant. At night, they would send small groups through ventilation tunnels, not to attack, just to let us know they could reach us anywhere. My soldiers started staying awake all the time. They were afraid to sleep. Kim frowned. Psychological warfare. We did not have words for it then. We only knew that our strongest warriors were becoming nervous and jumpy. They would shoot at shadows. They would not eat because they thought the food was poisoned. Vexathera turned back to Kim. And then there was Sergeant Choi Yoonji. Tell me about her. She was a small human female, maybe 40 years old. She worked in the base cafeteria before the war. She cooked food for the miners. Vexathera's voice became very quiet. She was also completely insane. Insane how? On the 20th day of fighting, we finally broke through one of the blocked tunnels. A squad of 20 soldiers went in to clear the area. Only 3 came back. They were shaking and crying. Vexathera sat back down. They said a human female had attacked them alone. She used kitchen knives and cooking tools as weapons. She killed 17 trained Kethmori warriors by herself. That seems impossible. That's what I thought. So I sent a larger group, 50 soldiers, full armor and heavy weapons. This time only 10 came back. Kim stopped writing. One human woman. She knew every vent, every hidden passage, every maintenance tunnel. She would appear from nowhere, kill 2 or 3 soldiers, then disappear again. My troops started calling her the ghost. Vexathera's hands clenched into fists. But she was not a ghost. She was something worse. She was a human who had decided to die fighting. And there is nothing more dangerous than that. What finally happened to her? We cornered her in the main kitchen on day 31. She was wounded, bad wounds. She should have been dead already, but she was still fighting. Vexathera's voice became very soft. My soldiers shot her a lot. But before she died, she smiled at them. Then she pulled the pin on a grenade she had hidden. The explosion killed 8 more of my troops. She used her own death as a weapon. Yes. And that was when I understood something terrible about humans. You do not just fight to win. You fight to make losing as expensive as possible for your enemies. Kim nodded. What happened after that? The fighting got worse. Every day the humans came up with new ways to hurt us. They rigged bodies with explosives. They poisoned water supplies. They used mining equipment to cause cave-ins that trapped whole squads. Vexathera rubbed his scarred face. Colonel Lee Min-ho started sending us messages, not threats, jokes. He would tell us how many of our soldiers had died that day. He would ask if we were getting tired of losing people to simple miners. He was trying to break your morale. It was working. By day 60, some of my soldiers were refusing orders. They said they would rather be court-martialed than go back into that base. I had to execute 3 of them to keep the others fighting. But you kept attacking. We had orders from high command. Take the base, no matter the cost. Vexathera laughed, but it was not a happy sound. The cost was everything. How did it end? Vexathera was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. On day 93, our sensors showed the humans were almost out of ammunition. We had finally won. We prepared for one final attack. Every soldier we had left, over 8,000 troops. And we broke through their last defenses. We reached the main command center. Colonel Lee Min-ho was there with maybe 50 other humans, all wounded, all tired, all smiling. Vexathera's whole body was shaking now. Lee Min-ho looked at me through his broken helmet. He said, "Thank you for visiting Titan Base. We hope you enjoyed your stay." Kim felt cold. What did he mean? The entire base was rigged with explosives, mining charges placed in every support beam, every wall, every tunnel. When Lee Min-ho Push the button, the whole mountain came down. He killed everyone, his own people and yours. 3,000 of my soldiers died in that explosion. The 50 humans died too. But they were smiling when they did it. Vexthara put his head in his hands. And I finally understood. Humans do not surrender. They just choose how they want to die. And they always choose to take you with them. Room was silent. Kim looked at his notes and realized his hands were shaking too. Captain Kim set down his tablet and looked at Vexithara. The alien warrior was staring at his hands again. The scars on his gray skin seemed darker in the white room's harsh light. "Do you need to stop?" Kim asked. "No." Vexithara's voice was firm. "I need to finish this, all of it." He looked up at Kim with those large yellow eyes. "The story of Titan Base spread through our fleet quickly, but our commander said it was just one battle, one crazy human leader. They said most humans would not be so willing to die. But they were wrong. They were very wrong. And I learned that during the Phantom Fleet incident. Vexthara's 6, arms wrapped around his body like he was trying to hold himself together. That was when we met Admiral Yoon Seok-jin." Kim picked up his tablet again. "Tell me about him." Yoon commanded the Human Defense Fleet at Kepler Junction. It was an important place. 6 different space routes met there. Control Kepler Junction, and you control trade for half the galaxy. Vexithara stood up and walked to the mirror again. "We sent our largest battle fleet, 200 ships. The humans had only 10 ships defending the junction. Our commanders were happy. Finally, an easy victory. But it wasn't easy. Nothing with humans is ever easy." Vexithara touched his reflection with one clawed finger. "Admiral Yoon sent us a message when we arrived. He said his fleet would not leave Kepler Junction. He said if we wanted it, we would have to take it from him. Direct challenge." "Yes." "So we moved our ships into attack formation. Standard battle plan. Surround the enemy, use superior numbers to win quickly." Vexthara turned away from the mirror. "But when we got close enough to fight, the human ships scattered. They ran. We thought they ran. The 10 human ships split up and disappeared into the asteroid belt around Kepler Junction. Our sensors lost them completely." Kim made notes. "What did you do?" "We waited. Our commanders thought the humans were hiding until we left. Standard coward tactics. We set up patrol routes around the junction and waited for them to come out." Vexithara sat back down. 3 days later, one of our patrol ships exploded. No warning. No enemy contacts on sensors. Just a bright flash, then nothing. The humans attacked from the asteroids. One human ship came out of nowhere, fired missiles at our patrol, then disappeared again. We sent 20 ships to hunt it down. They found nothing. The asteroids were too thick, too many places to hide. Vexithara's claws drummed on the table. The next day it happened again, different patrol ship, same result, explosion, then nothing. We started keeping our ships closer together for protection. Did that help? For a few days. Then the humans changed tactics. They started hitting our supply ships. Food, fuel, ammunition. Ships that were supposed to be safe in the back of our formation. Kim looked up from his tablet. "How?" "We never found out. Our ships would just disappear. Sometimes we would find wreckage days later. Sometimes nothing at all." Vexithara's voice became strained. "After 2 weeks, we lost 30 ships. We had not even seen the enemy except for quick glimpses." "Your fleet must have been getting nervous." "Nervous? No, Captain Kim. We were becoming afraid. Really afraid. My soldiers would jump at every small noise. They saw human ships in empty space. They reported attacks that never happened." Vexithara put his hands flat on the table. "The humans were not just fighting our ships. They were fighting our minds. Every day they would send us messages, sometimes battle reports of ships they had destroyed, sometimes jokes, sometimes recordings of our own soldiers screaming before they died. Psychological warfare again, but worse than Titan Base. At Titan Base we could see the enemy. We knew where they were. In the asteroid belt we never knew when they would strike. We never knew which ship would be next." Kim frowned. "How long did this go on?" 8 months. 8 months of invisible enemies and dead friends. 8 months of sleeping with one eye open and jumping at shadows. Vexathara's voice cracked. Some of my soldiers started killing themselves rather than waiting for the humans to get them. That's when your fleet should have retreated. We tried. Our war leader, Supreme Commander Vakhtharan, ordered a retreat to friendly space. We would regroup and come back with more ships. Vexathara's eyes became distant. But Admiral Yoon was not finished with us yet. As our fleet was leaving, we received a message. The humans wanted to talk. They wanted to discuss surrender terms. Kim stopped writing. The humans wanted to surrender? That is what we thought. Admiral Yoon sent a message saying he was tired of running and hiding. He wanted to meet with our war leader to discuss how to end the fighting without more deaths. You believed him? Why would we not? We had bigger ships, more weapons, more soldiers. It made sense that they would finally give up. Vexathara's hands were shaking again. Supreme Commander Vakhtharan agreed to meet. He took his flagship to the meeting point with a small escort. Where was the meeting? A neutral asteroid station, old mining platform that had been abandoned for years. Perfect place for peace talks, safe for both sides. Vexathara laughed, but it was a terrible sound. We should have known better. Nothing is safe when humans are involved. What happened? The meeting went well at first. Admiral Yoon seemed tired and defeated. He talked about how his small fleet could not fight forever. He offered to surrender Kepler Junction if we promised to treat human prisoners fairly. Vexathara's whole body was tense now. Supreme Commander Vakhtharan was happy. Finally, the humans were acting smart. He started planning victory parades. But it was a trap. The worst kind of trap. The kind where the bait looks exactly like what you want. Vexathara's voice became very quiet. While they were talking, Commander Han Jiwoo was flying her ship toward our flagship. Who was Commander Han? One of Admiral Yoon's officers, a small human female with short black hair and cold eyes. She had been attacking our ships for months. We never caught her, but we knew her ship's energy signature. Kim felt his stomach tighten. What was she doing? Flying a suicide mission. Her ship was loaded with nuclear bombs and heading straight for our flagship. But our sensors did not see her because she was using a new human technology, something that made her ship invisible to our scanners. Stealth technology. We called it Ghost Technology. Very fitting name. Vexathara's claws were digging grooves in the metal table. Commander Han hit our flagship at full speed. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from 3 star systems away. She killed your war leader. She killed him, his entire staff, and 4,000 of our best soldiers, all while Admiral Yoon was shaking hands with them and talking about peace. Vexathara stood up suddenly, his chair falling backward. Do you understand what that means? The humans were smiling and making peace talks while they were planning to murder our leader. They looked us in the eyes and lied without any shame. Kim set down his tablet. That broke your fleet. Completely. When the news spread, our remaining ships started jumping to hyperspace immediately. No orders, no formation, just panic. Vexathara picked up his chair and sat back down. Half the fleet was gone within an hour. What about the other half? We tried to regroup at a nearby system, but it was too late. The psychological damage was done. My soldiers saw human ships everywhere. Empty space, asteroid shadows, reflections on their own hull plating. They were shooting at nothing and calling for help every few minutes. Vexathara rubbed his face with all 6 hands. Some ships started firing on each other because they thought their allies were human ships in disguise. In 2 days we lost. More ships to friendly fire than we had lost to the actual enemy. The fleet fell apart. Completely. Within a week there was no fleet left. Just scattered ships running home as fast as they could. Vexathara looked at Kim with haunted eyes. And Admiral Yoon never chased us. He just stayed at Kepler Junction and waited for the next enemy to come. Because he knew you would spread the story. Yes. Every ship that ran home told the same story. Humans who could turn invisible. Humans who smiled while they stabbed you in the back. Humans who fought like ghosts and died like bombs. Vexathara's voice became a whisper. After Kepler Junction, no Kethmori fleet would fight humans without overwhelming numbers. Even then, many soldiers would find excuses not to go. The human reputation was spreading through our military like a plague. Kim looked at his notes. Pages and pages of horror stories. But there's more, isn't there? Oh, yes. Vexathara's yellow eyes were filled with old pain. The worst was yet to come, because the humans were not satisfied with just being invisible killers. They wanted to become something else, something that would give us nightmares for the rest of our lives. The White Room felt colder now. Captain Kim noticed that his own hands were shaking slightly as he held his tablet. Across from him, Vexathara sat like a statue made of scars and bad memories. The biological weapon was supposed to end the war quickly, Vexathara said without looking up. Our scientists had studied human DNA from prisoners. They created a virus that would only kill humans. Very precise, very clean. Kim felt sick. You were going to commit genocide. That was the plan. Drop the virus on human worlds and wait for them all to die. No more ships ramming into ours. No more invisible attacks from asteroid belts. No more humans turning every battle into a nightmare. Vexathara finally looked up. His yellow eyes were dull with shame. I was part of the fleet that carried the weapon to New Sol Colony. 2.3 million humans lived there. We thought it would be a good test. A test to see how fast the virus worked, how completely it killed. If it was successful, we would use it on Earth and end the war in a few weeks. Kim made notes, but his writing was shaky. What went wrong? Everything went wrong because we still did not understand humans. We dropped the virus and waited for the colony to die. But instead of running or hiding, the humans did something we never expected. Vexathara stood up and walked to the corner of the room. They studied our weapon. They figured out how it worked, then they made it worse. Worse how? Dr. An Hyun-soo was the chief scientist on New Sol. He was supposed to die with all the other humans. Instead, he took our virus and changed it. Vexathara's voice became very quiet. He made it into a weapon that could kill Kethmori. Kim stopped writing. He weaponized your own biological weapon against you. Yes, but not the way you think. The virus still killed humans. Dr. An could not change that part. But he made it so that humans who were infected would also become poisonous to my people. I don't understand. Vexathara turned around. The infected humans became living biological weapons. Their breath, their blood, their sweat, everything became deadly to Kethmori. If we touched them or breathed the same air, we would die too. Kim felt his stomach turn. He turned the dying humans into weapons. More than that, he made them volunteer for it. Dr. An asked for volunteers to be infected on purpose, to become walking biological bombs. And humans lined up to volunteer. Vexathara's claws were scratching the wall now. Do you understand what that means? People volunteered to die horribly if it meant they could kill some of us too. They stood in line to become plague carriers. How many volunteered? 10,000. 10,000 humans who knew they would die in agony but also knew their deaths would hurt us. Major Song Hye-rin led them. Tell me about her. She was a career soldier. 40 years old, she had 3 children back on Earth. Vexathara's voice cracked. She was the first to volunteer for infection. She said her children would understand why Mommy had to become poison. Kim set down his tablet. His hands were shaking too much to write. Major Song organized the infected humans into attack squads. They called themselves the Death Guard. Their mission was simple: get close to as many Kethmori soldiers as possible before they died. And it worked. It worked perfectly. The infected humans would charge our positions with no weapons, no armor, just their poisoned bodies. My soldiers would shoot them, but it did not matter. Dead or alive, the infected humans were still deadly to touch. Vexathara put his forehead against the wall. Within 3 days, half my landing force was dead from the bioweapon. The other half was too afraid to go near any human, alive or dead. What happened to Dr. An? He infected himself too. On the last day. When we broke through to his laboratory, he was there waiting for us, dying from his own virus, but still working on making it stronger. Vexathara's voice became barely a whisper. He looked at me with those human eyes and smiled. He said, "Thank you for teaching us a new way to fight. We will remember this lesson." Then what? He breathed on me. Just breathed. That is all it took. Vexathara showed Kim a large scar on his chest. I was wearing full battle armor, environmental seals, air filters. It did not matter. The human virus went through everything. Kim stared at the scar. "But you survived." "Barely. I spent 2 months in a medical pod. Most of my organs shut down. I should have died." Vexathara touched the scar gently. But the worst part was not the sickness. It was the dreams. Dreams. While I was unconscious, I dreamed about the humans we had killed. But in my dreams, they were not dead. They were still fighting, still smiling, still turning their own suffering into weapons against us. Vexathara sat back down. When I woke up, the war was almost over. New Sol Colony was gone. All the humans were dead. But the story of what they did spread through our entire military. How did other Kethmori react? With terror. Complete terror. We had created a weapon to kill humans, and they had used it to kill us instead. They had turned our own science against us. Vexathara's 6 arms were wrapped around his body again. But worse than that, they had shown us something about human nature that we could not understand. They loved their families so much that they would become poison to protect them. The other fleets heard about this. Every Kethmori in the galaxy heard about this. The story was told in whispers, how humans would infect themselves with deadly diseases if it meant hurting their enemies, how they would volunteer to die in the most horrible ways possible. Kim picked up his tablet again, but he did not write anything. What happened next? Our high command called an emergency meeting. All the war leaders who had fought humans, all the scientists who had studied them, everyone who had any contact with your species. And they asked us one question. Can we win a war against humans? And every single officer gave the same answer. Vexathara looked directly at Kim. We said no, not because humans have better weapons or ships, but because humans are willing to pay prices that no sane species would ever pay. What kind of prices? Any price. All prices. Humans will sacrifice everything they have and everything they are if it means their families might survive one more day. Vexathara's voice was full of exhausted wonder. You turn your own deaths into weapons. You smile while you die if it helps someone you love. You volunteer to become poison. Kim was quiet for a long time. Finally, he asked, "So your people decided to retreat?" "Yes. Full withdrawal from all human space. No more attacks. No more invasions. The official order was to avoid humans completely unless they attacked us first. And if they did attack first?" Vexathara's laugh was hollow and broken. "Surrender immediately. Do not fight. Do not resist. Just surrender and hope they let us live." The room was silent except for the soft hum of air circulation. Kim looked at his notes. Pages and pages of horror stories. But he knew there was still more. "There's one more story, isn't there?" he asked quietly. Vexathara nodded. "The story of how I ended up here, in this room, talking to you." He looked at Kim with eyes that had seen too much. "The story of what happened when the war was over, and I learned the most terrifying thing of all about humans." The silence in the white room stretched for several minutes. Vexathara stared at his scarred hands while Captain Kim waited. Behind the mirror, Dr. Park Soo-jin was taking notes, but she had stopped recording audio. She knew this final part would be different. "The war ended 5 years ago," Vexathara finally said. "Complete Kethmori withdrawal from human space. No more battles, no more death. We went back to our worlds and tried to forget what we had learned about humans." Kim nodded. But you couldn't forget. No, none of us could. Every Kethmori veteran had the same problems. Bad dreams, jumping at shadows, seeing human faces in crowds of our own people. Vexathara's voice was tired. Our doctors said we had a new kind of sickness, a sickness of the mind. Post-traumatic stress. Yes, but our medicine could not fix it. Nothing could make the memories go away. Nothing could make us stop being afraid. Vexathara looked up at Kim. That is when your people found us. Kim frowned. What do you mean? 2 years after the war ended, human ships came to our border. Not warships, medical ships, science ships, ships full of doctors and mind healers. They came to help you. Yes. The same species that had turned themselves into biological weapons came to heal the minds they had broken. The same humans who had smiled while they died came to make sure we could sleep at night. Vexathara stood up and walked to the mirror again. I did not understand at first. I thought it was some kind of trick, some new weapon we had not seen before. But it wasn't. No, the humans really wanted to help us get better. Dr. Park Soo-jin was one of the first to arrive. She studied our minds and learned how to fix the damage the war had done. Kim looked toward the mirror. She's still helping veterans. Yes. For 3 years now, she has been working with Kethmori soldiers who cannot forget the war, teaching us that humans are not the monsters we thought they were. Vexathara touched his reflection with one clawed finger. That is the most terrifying thing about humans. Not that you fight like demons, not that you turn your own deaths into weapons. The most terrifying thing is that you stop being monsters the moment the fighting ends. Kim set down his tablet. I don't understand. During the war, you were the most frightening enemies we had ever faced. You did things that gave us nightmares. You fought in ways that broke our minds. Vexathara turned away from the mirror. But when the war ended, you became something else. You became healers. We became ourselves again. Yes. And that is what I could not understand. How can the same species that volunteers to become poison also volunteer to heal their enemies? How can you smile while you die in battle, then smile while you fix the people you were trying to kill? Kim thought about this for a moment. Maybe because the war was never about hatred, it was about survival. I am beginning to understand that now, thanks to Dr. Park and the other human doctors. Vexathara sat back down. They explained something to me about human nature that I had missed during the war. What did they explain? That everything humans did during the war came from the same source. Love for your families, love for your species, love for your future. Vexathara's voice became softer. You did not fight us because you hated us. You fought us because you loved each other. Kim nodded slowly. That's why we were willing to pay. Any price? Yes, and that is also why you stopped fighting the moment we retreated. Once your families were safe, you did not want to hurt anyone anymore. You just wanted to help people heal. The door to the room opened. Dr. Park Soo-jin walked in. She was a small human woman with kind eyes and graying hair. She carried a medical tablet and smiled at both men. I hope I'm not interrupting, she said. Vexathara turned toward her. Dr. Park, I was just telling Captain Kim about how you helped me understand humans. She sat down in a chair near the wall. How are you feeling about telling these stories again? Better, much better. Captain Kim is a good listener. Dr. Park looked at Kim. I should explain something to you, Captain. This interview was part of Vexathara's therapy. Talking about his war experiences helps him process the trauma. Kim looked confused. I thought I was here to gather intelligence about alien military tactics. You are, but you're also helping a veteran heal from his psychological wounds. Dr. Park smiled. Sometimes the best intelligence comes from understanding how others see us. A new voice spoke from speakers in the wall. Captain Kim, this is Director Nam Gi-seok. I hope Vexathara's stories have been educational. Kim looked around the room. Director, I didn't know you were listening. I listened to all the interviews. It helps us understand how other species perceive human military behavior. The director's voice was calm and professional. Vexthara is one of 43 former Keth Mori officers participating in our joint research program. Joint research program? Yes. We work together to study interspecies conflict psychology. The goal is to prevent future wars through better understanding. Vexthara looked at Kim. I volunteered for this program because I wanted to understand why humans fight the way they do, and why you stop fighting when the danger is over. Dr. Park opened her medical tablet. The research has been very successful. We've learned that most interspecies conflicts come from misunderstanding rather than actual hatred. What kind of misunderstandings? Species like the Keth Mori see human battlefield behavior as inherently violent or cruel. They don't understand that it comes from protective instincts rather than aggression. Kim nodded. So you're teaching them about human psychology. And they're teaching us about alien psychology. It works both ways. Dr. Park made some notes. Vexthara, how do you feel about humans now? The alien warrior thought for a moment. Different. Very different from 5 years ago. During the war, I thought humans were monsters who enjoyed killing. Now I understand you are just parents who will do anything to protect your children. That's a good way to put it, Kim said. Yes, and once I understood that, the nightmares started getting better. It is hard to be afraid of someone who is fighting for the same reasons you would fight. Dr. Park smiled. That's exactly the kind of breakthrough we hope for in this program. Director Nam's voice came from the speakers again. Captain Kim, do you have any questions about what you've learned today? Kim looked at his notes. Pages of horror stories that were really love stories. Just one question. Vexthara, if humans are just protective parents, why were you so afraid of us during the war? Vexthara's yellow eyes were calm now, not haunted, like before. Because parents protecting their children are the most dangerous creatures in the universe. They will do anything, pay any price, sacrifice everything they have. He paused and looked directly at Kim. But they are only dangerous to those who threaten their families. If you are not a threat, they become the gentlest healers you will ever meet. And that's terrifying? No, Captain Kim, that is not terrifying anymore. Now I think it is beautiful. Vexthara smiled, and for the first time, it was a peaceful expression. Your species fights like demons when you have to, but you choose to be angels when you can. That is not terrifying. That is hope. Kim closed his tablet and stood up. Thank you for sharing your stories, Vexthara. I think I understand humans a little better now too. Good, that was the point. Vexthara stood up as well. Dr. Park, I think I am ready for the next phase of therapy. Excellent. We'll start working on your reintegration training next week. As they prepared to leave the White Room, Kim had one more question. Vexthara, what are you planning to do when your therapy is finished? The alien warrior thought for a moment. I want to go home and teach young Keth Mori about humans. Teach them that you are not monsters to be feared, but neighbors to be understood. And if there's ever another conflict, then I will teach them the most important lesson of all. Vexthara's voice was firm and clear. Never threaten a human's family, because there is no limit to what they will do to protect the people they love, and there is no price they will not pay to keep them safe. Kim nodded. That's probably good advice for any species. Yes, Vexthara agreed. It is the most important thing I learned from the war. Humans are not cruel because they enjoy violence. You are kind because you choose love, but when someone threatens that love, he shrugged all 6 of his shoulders. Well, then you become something that gives entire galaxies nightmares, but only until the threat is gone. Yes, only until the threat is gone. Then you go back to being healers and teachers and parents. Vexthara walked toward the door. And that, Captain Kim, is both the most terrifying and the most wonderful thing about your species.